We saw our first ever legendary action, additional ally support, and even more Madrigal synergy. Let's take a look.
What's up, Illuminators? It's Charlie and Matteo's back. We now have only 1 day left of reveals, so let's take a look at the batch that was released over the weekend. So first up in the dual ink types, we have Wendy Darling, Pirate Queen. She's an Amber Ruby dual ink Glimmer, 7 cost, inkable, 5/7 questing for 2. She is evasive, and she has the ability Tell No Tales. Whenever one of your characters is banished, you may remove all damage from chosen character. So, I mean, a 5/7 evasive, very decent stats. If you're able to get her out sooner with, like, maybe the Lantern or something in Amber, you can have quite a powerful character. The second ability, I'm not so sure whether it's that powerful to be able to remove damage from a character. It depends how many characters you have in play, if they have a lot of willpower to be kind of absorbing all of that damage. So that I'm less sure about, and it's only when one of your other characters is banished, so you don't even really have control of it. Well, I suppose you could challenge something and banish a character to then heal another character, but I don't know, it just feels like a little bit, it feels a bit fussy.
It does. It's very Umber and very Ruby. That's a perfect example of the two colors, right? Getting those two elements of healing and the banishing, the damaging, and so on. Let's not forget, she's a pirate, she's a captain as well.
That's true, that's true.
Really
and
cool.
A hero and a queen.
And a hero and a queen. That part was a given, but a pirate and a captain.
The queen is new, though.
No, it is new because she's a Dreamborn. I just mean more when we're looking at the pirates, we're always looking for the captain.
Yes.
She can be the captain. And she's a pirate queen. That's the name of the card. So beautiful. I love this art.
It's gorgeous, the art.
Joker Van Gogh, strike again.
We have Jasmine, Inspired Researcher. Jasmine is a Sapphire Steel dual ink Glimmer, a 5 cost, uninkable, 3/5 questing for 2, with the ability Additional Help. Whenever this character quests, if you have no cards in hand, draw a card for each ally you have in play. So, as Matthias said at the top of the video, a little bit more ally support coming to the game. An interesting one, maybe for like an aggro deck, if you're kind of emptying your hand out, you're playing a bunch of low-cost allies, and then you're able to draw back some of those with Jasmine. Of course, it is a on-quest and not an on-player action, so Jasmine does need to stick to the board at least for 1 turn, which is possible, but I think she's going to be a prime target to remove if your opponent wants to stop you drawing some cards.
What is interesting, as you'll see with more of the cards moving forward, is this ally synergy that we mentioned, right? We are finally still seeing more and more meaning behind it, and it's really, really cool.
And it seems to be confined mainly to Sapphire and Steel, right? So far.
I didn't pay attention. We'll pay attention as we go. It's just cool. It's just super cool. And we're seeing more less cost characters as well, I've been noticing. Yeah. So you can really bring and get the benefits as soon as the game starts.
Next up, we have Yzma Above It All. She is an Amethyst Emerald Glimmer, 7 cost inkable, 3/8 questing for 2. Yzma is a Floodbond, so shifts in at 5. She is evasive, and she has the ability Back to Work. Whenever another character is banished in a challenge, return that card to its player's hand. Then that player discards a card at random. So a very, really interesting one there. It's kind of like Dr. Facilier from the first chapter, returning banished characters, but it is going to be yours and your opponent's. But then it also has the added downside of you needing to then discard a card as well. So right now, I can't really in my head, all of the wheels are turning. I don't know exactly how you use this card in a way that's kind of beneficial to you.
Because it triggers for both, as it said, but it's also discard at random. Yeah. So it can be very risky for you if you're really worried about losing a card that you didn't want to.
Yeah, so kind of turning all characters into we don't talk about Bruno, so that is interesting. I do think it's better than Lady Tremaine, who was the legendary Emerald card, so she had to exert. And then you could return chosen damage character to their player's hand and have a similar effect. I do think Yzma is a bit more playable than her. The stats obviously are a lot better. It's basically as soon as she's on the board, then her effect is taking place. And actually a 3/8 questing for 2, who potentially you can get in at 5, is actually quite decent stats.
I just love the concept of it, being evasive as well. She will stay for longer there in the board. Yeah. So when the card returns to your hand, you only do the discarding after. So on paper, the card could be taken away as well. The card that just returned.
It could be, yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's always the part as well.
I think the pairing probably you'll want is this with the Kronk card. So the Kronk is when you would discard because of an effect you don't discard. So obviously Kronk would protect you there from the discard. So if you're able to set up Kronk and then Yzma, it could actually be quite a nice combo.
And I just mentioned that. I need to confirm with all the other cards, but all the Amethyst Emerald cards are all based on
The Emperor's New Groove.
I believe we have also,
so, yes,
we also have the Cusco as well. Yes, so that's cool. Is that happening everything else? I didn't pay attention. No, it's not.
It's not.
It's actually not.
It's not. Some of them are all one type. But I think Cusco's in Sapphire Amethyst, isn't he?
No, this one that I mentioned is Amethyst Emerald.
Okay.
So, but I'm thinking on Blue and other colors. Some of them is not the same thing.
Yeah.
I just don't imagine if all dual wings were the same thing. But so far for these two colors, I think that's the case. Yeah. Love this card.
And then next we have the Family Madrigal. This is an Amber Amethyst song, 5-cost inkable with the ability, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 1 Madrigal character card and up to 1 song card, put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So we did see Mirabelle Madrigal, the 3-cost singer 5, and we predicted in that video that we'd probably see some 5-cost songs, and here is a 5-cost song for Mirabelle to be able to sing. So a nice little bit of card draw. It is limited to Madrigals, so for those Madrigal theme decks, for casual decks, I think this is going to be a really, really fun one.
Yeah, and there's more cards. Again, we're going to be looking at very soon. More Madrigal cards came in, and it just synergizes all together. I'm actually very excited about that as well. I feel like they're really trying to push that to happen. And we're getting there.
It's gonna, because the Madrigals, they're all on their own kind of strong.
Yeah.
And now you're getting to basically pick the best ones, put them all into a deck, and really fun.
Super, super cool.
Up next, we have Anna Icebreaker. She is an Amethyst Sapphire dual ink glimmer, a 4-cost inkable 2/3 questing for 2. She has support and she has the ability Winter Ambush. When you play this character, chosen opposing character can't ready at the start of their next turn. So a way there to lock down your opponent's characters to disrupt them a little bit. On a 4-cost inkable with reasonable stats, I think actually quite a nice ability. And Anna does pair very nice with Elsa Ice Maker. Elsa is the Ice Maker, and Anna is the Icebreaker there. And Elsa's ability, there's like an Alan Sugar thing to say.
It was such an Alan Sugar joke. That's good. We're keeping it.
But so Elsa's ability, if you have a character named Anna in play, when you exert with Elsa's ability, they don't then ready with Anna's ability. So
in the start of the next turn.
So nice, some nice synergy there between the two of them. And do you have anything to say about this card?
So we think if we put them side by side, we're gonna show on screen right now. They are likely a continuous art. We weren't sure if Elsa will be on the left or Anna, but I think they are back to back, protecting each other with the tree right in the middle. We do see the repetition of the towers on the back, but as far as we've seen so far, there are many towers in the ARCHAZIA'S Island. So beautiful. Another art from Ian McDonald, and you can see it's very Ian. Just by looking at it, you can tell. I love this card. Yeah. And it's starting to push me to think, should I join Alex and play Blurple? Because there's so many cool cards there. But amazing.
Next up, we have Penny Boldsperson. Penny is an Amber Steel dual glimmer. She is a 2-cost inkable 1/2 questing for 2 with the ability Enduring Loyalty. When you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character, and they gain resist +1 until the start of your next turn. So for a 2-cost character, very reasonable stats. Really is going to work in a more aggressive version of Amber Steel for sure. Naturally, I think a good synergy that already exists in that deck is Mr. Smee. Often Mr. Smee will get damage because he's damaging himself every time he's exerted at the end of a turn. So after 2 turns of doing that, you could then play Penny to heal him up, give him resist, and then he won't take damage the next turn, so it helps just kind of extend his ability to quest on the board. And then you have a reasonable static character as well in the form of Penny.
So because Esme is dealing 1 damage, that does not bypass resist, right? It's different than moving damage.
Exactly.
So he is protected. Yeah, super, super cool. Yeah. And finally, we get to see Penny. And Maya Saros finally makes her appearance in this Lorcana.
Someone did raise the fact that in the Rescuers, the main character is called Penny as well.
Oh.
And this character is also called Penny. So if we get the other Penny, we're gonna see if they find some way to differentiate
Triple
them.
Penny, that is true actually.
Because we had Chip, obviously, and then Chip the Teacup were named differently. But Penny so far.
That isn't, because then you can play any Penny when you say play characters with this card.
Yeah.
But do we already have the other Penny?
We don't have the other Penny.
Okay, I thought it was.
But surely it's only a matter of time. We got Markowski. You got to give us Penny from the Rescuers. And the last dual ink card we have today is Maurice's Machine. This is a Ruby Sapphire. Item, 3 cost, with the ability Breakdown. When this item is banished, you may return an item card with cost 2 or less from your discard to your hand. So we're going to look at another card later, Maurice, who has some already synergy with this, which I think makes the item slightly better. On its own, I find the ability very, very weak. It's another one of those cards that it doesn't have the banish built into its ability, so you need to banish it with something else. So you can banish it with Hiram, draw 2 cards, and then return maybe a popsicle from your discard. It's funny that the machine doesn't even let you return itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so it is what it is. I mean, even if I compare it to the new legendary Tamatoa, when you play him, he's returning 2 items from your discard. Maurice's machine is returning 1 for half the cost. So I'm not sure. I think even with the synergy with Maurice, which we'll see, I'm not sure it's that great of an item either, to be honest.
Nothing to say, yeah. So, I do like it. I do like it visually.
Visually amazing. Cool. I love the concept. And they're obviously pushing for this Ruby Sapphire item heavy build.
Too much, if anything. Stop pushing it.
I don't know. If people play this, I'll be happy.
Just use this one. Don't use Tomato. Don't use the other ones.
So we will see. And let us drop those into the tracker right now. And I think that was probably enough time, right?
That was enough
So let's
time.
go over to Amber. And we are going to start off with Kenai, Protective Brother. He has a 4-cost Inkable, 2/4 questing for 1. With the ability, he needs me. At the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready another chosen character of yours and remove all damage from them. So, interesting ability. We've seen a little bit of this already in Amber, the kind of readying at the end of your turn. Whether it's that impactful, I'm not so sure. Obviously, synergy with something like Lawrence. So you could use Lawrence to challenge a character, then remove the damage because it's removing all damage, and then readying him as well. So it could be a good way to protect your Lawrence. But in terms of readying, I still prefer the legendary Simba. He's readying everything. He obviously doesn't remove the damage, but he readies everything. Or if you just want to ready a character, I think Sven, already a card that's starting to see play in Amber decks, I think is just a better option.
I think it's closer to it because the Simba is an Inkable, right?
Exactly.
So that's the big difference as well.
So next for us in Amber, we have Trusty the Sniffer Dog, Loyal Bloodhound, a 2-cost Inkable, 2/2 questing for 1 with support. And very happy to see more of the cast and characters of Lady and the Tramp joining the game. And I think that's about all.
So beautiful.
It's a very beautiful
I do like the pot, and he's like looking at it. And it's funny that his name in German is Pluto as well, right? So some people are confused. Who is this? But that is Trusty.
And they made that differentiation, Pluto der Spurhund
exactly.
in German, so that you can't shift like a
exactly. So they need to do the same for Piney.
Yeah. Next, we have Pepper Madrigal, Sensitive Sister, a 3-cost Inkable, 2/4 questing for 1 with the ability Clear Skies, Clear Skies. Whenever one or more of your characters sing a song, gain 1 lot. So a little bit of support for the Madrigal deck. It seems to be that is a deck that's going to want to be singing songs, but Pepper could also potentially drop into like a regular Steel Song deck as another way to gain you some lore. It's a similar function to Sleepy's Flute. The difference is she's inkable and Sleepy's Flute is not inkable, but a character does have to sing a song compared to Sleepy's Flute where it's just any song that's played, and you can gain multiple lot in the same turn. It's interesting that it says whenever one or more of your characters. So if you use 3 characters to sing together, presumably you only get 1 more.
I think so, yeah. So it's one action of sing together or each individual song, right?
Yeah.
And I think that would be the same with Sleepy's Flute, right? That's still just one song, if you think about the analogy.
But Sleepy's Flute is you exert. And
so you cannot.
So that's the difference.
That's right,
and I guess the difference with Alan Adil, who is another similar ability, is that's whenever you play a song again. Exactly. It's not relying on characters singing. So I do like Pepper. I think the 3-cost slot in Amber Steel is quite heavily contested. I'm not sure you'd want to be putting Pepper in over something like even Ariel or Lawrence, things like that. So we will see, but I think in a Madrigal theme deck, she's going to be a lot of fun.
But that's it, right? I don't think she's being replaced just yet on this Steel Song. It's more for Madrigal and other decks.
But the card, absolutely beautiful.
It's so cute. Talking about absolutely beautiful card, probably one of my favorites now.
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy. So this is Snow White, Fairest in the Land, 4-cost Inkable, 2/2 questing for 2. With the ability Hidden Away, this character can't be challenged. As Matteo said, first things first, the art on this, absolutely incredible.
Insane.
From Mario Manzares, thank you, Matteo. Such great art. And he actually shared over on Twitter a little bit of trivia that the owl in this, at least the owl, was designed by Eddie Welly, another fantastic artist. So
and if I can add to that, actually, he also mentioned that out of those, all things you're seeing on screen, the turtle was the one that took him the most time to do.
Interesting.
He spent a lot of time in the turtle, more than Snow White herself. So that's really funny.
Yeah.
But should we talk a little bit more about the card itself, the effect?
Yeah, so very cool effect. I think we saw this on a couple of cards already, a character that can't be challenged. So that does mean that potentially if you're playing against a deck that doesn't have actions or the ability to remove your character some other way, that Snow White is going to just be a menace, questing for 2 every turn. Even if your opponent does have actions, you could get around that with Ward. I mention it every time. Alice Savvy Sailor, such a good card in more aggressive Sapphire decks. So we could see maybe a Sapphire Amber deck utilizing both Snow White, who can't be challenged, and Alice to give her Ward so that Snow White also can't be banished with actions. Also something like the Sardine Can. I'm not sure many decks are going to be running the Sardine Can, but that is an item that gives your exerted character Ward, so you could use that as well to protect Snow White. She's a 4-cost though, I think is the biggest downside. So maybe if you're playing a Sapphire Amber deck and you've got a little bit of an early ramp, and then you can play Snow White a bit sooner, then it could be better.
You did make a comment when we first saw the card. If I am playing still Hyper Aggro in my current deck, there was no way for me to take her down from the board, which is interesting because I cannot challenge her. I don't have other methods of removal apart from the Befuddle, which doesn't apply to her. Then she can just be there questing. It's insane.
Yeah. So another very interesting card there for Amber. Next up, we have Susie, Master Seamstress, a 4-cost inkable 3/4, questing for 2. We've seen this stat line on quite a few characters now. A lot of those have secondary abilities, even if it's just something like support. So the fact that Susie is a vanilla, not really doing much. Maybe in draft she'll be a good one to grab a hold of, but I think outside of that, she's not going to be seeing much play, sadly. And then next we have Cinderella, the right one. She's a 4-cost inkable, a 2/4 questing for 2, with the ability, if the slipper fits, when you play this character, you may put an item card named the Glass Slipper from your discard onto the bottom of your deck to gain 3 lore. So we saw the Glass Slipper. We mentioned the fact that it's an interesting one because you got to banish the Glass Slipper to get use of its ability, but you can then bring it back with Cinderella. So some fun synergy there. Again, not sure it's going to be seeing like high level competitive play, but if you want to build that princess deck, maybe actually even in a more aggro-oriented like Amber Sapphire deck, it could be another one that's quite good.
And she does generate 2 lore when you quest. You can get 3 from the sleeper. Obviously, you can only have 2 in your deck, if you remember what we said before. I do love those things. It's very gimmicky.
It is.
But it's so, I don't know, it just fits so well.
If you can get it to work.
It's so cute. But I think when we're talking about the sleeper before, we're saying we still need to have the prince as well. So that part of the process is very hard to manage, to make it work. But at this stage, once you already did it, I think this card's quite cool.
It would be amazing if it was like a lot more lore. Like then it was really a payoff for having to get all of those
there's
pieces.
more steps. Maybe they'll review other steps later. I like it.
But it is very cool for a combo deck. And then last up in Amber, we have the Amber Coil, a 1-cost inkable item. And it has the ability Healing Aura. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. Not really a fan of these cards that just remove damage from characters. We've seen plenty of them now in Amber and Sapphire. I think there's the expectation with cards like Rapunzel and Baymax that remove damage and then do something for the damage removed. I think when an item's just removing damage, it's maybe a little bit underwhelming. But that being said, we do see a lot of effects this time around that's damaging characters like the Queen of Hearts.
A lot, in fact.
So potentially, maybe these types of items and actions are going to end up being put into the metagame just because there's so much damage flying around. But
still inkable, right? Not a lot of people are running item removals as well. So it's a backup plan more than anything. But we'll see how relevant it will be. Maybe starting from set 7, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. So that is all for Amber today. So let's fill in the tracker. Some interesting ones. It's nice to see them like kind of pushing and creating riffs on.
I love it. I'm actually very impressed. I'm gonna say with set 7 so far. It's just being so. I mean, the creativity side is being out of the box. Yeah.
And then with that, let's go on over to Amethyst. So Dolores Madrigal within earshot is a 1-cost inkable 1/2 questing for 1 with the ability I Hear You. Whenever one of your characters sings a song, chosen opponent reveals their hand. So if you ever wanted to get a little bit more information about what your opponent is doing, then Dolores is going to help you do that. You even said, right, like, what can I do with that information?
I said that early. I'll look at their hand and say, okay, what do I do now? It's still better than not knowing, right?
I think at like very, very, very high level play, there is a huge advantage to knowing the cards that your opponent has in their hand. For more casual players at our level, trying to remember all of that information is just like so cognitively overwhelming.
It's probably for the removals. I think for me it would be more relevant knowing, can they remove any of my early cards? That's it. But after that, I won't remember.
Yeah. And even though she's a 1-cost, you can always play her on like turn 5, 6. Have a character sing a song once she's been played, and then look at the hand to make the decision. Do I want to commit more to the board? Do I want to not?
Are they playing Sapphire so I can quit this game right now?
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, super fun in a Madrigal deck for sure. And then next we have Show Me More. This is an uninkable 2-cost action. Each player draws 3 cards. So another interesting one. I feel like this is a deceptively difficult card to play correctly, because giving your opponent 3 cards is a big deal, even though you yourself get 3 cards. I see this as something that probably fits into like an aggro deck or a burn deck, where you really need the card draw and you're not really caring too much about your opponent drawing a load of cards. Similar in theory to something like the Amethyst Chromacon. I think it's a little bit more impactful because the Chromacon, it's 1 card per turn. This you can basically play it and get those 3 cards straight away. So I think it maybe is a way to just, close out the game, refill your hand. Could be interesting, but...
I think the other part as well of the Chromicon is a May ability, so the opponent has the choice.
That's true.
If they're using this as a milling, they cannot react to that. They will have to draw the 2 cards. I know that's very end game. It's not always applicable. Personally, I think, again, if I'm looking for an hyper aggro, having that chance with 2 cost to get that last gathering knowledge and wisdom that I might need if I'm about to close the game, because usually I'll have my board with 4 ink. I'll be able to afford 1 more and close the game. I think they can be cool, but it is a big risk for sure, depending on the deck you're using. Again, the art is just spectacular. It's spectacular. Each mirror reflecting something different, and
and the classic swirls of Amethyst
perfect Amethyst. It's just every time there's the queen, I'm just like,
they're such good looking cards. Okay. So next up we have Pain Impident Imp. He's a 1-cost inkable, 1/3 questing for 1 vanilla.
Sorry, this is mine. Not much to say, I think. What I would say is it's such a shame that it got announced a day after Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it was announced on February 15th.
They should have announced on 14th. This is literally like a Cupid, an ugly Cupid.
so ugly, but so beautiful.
So cute.
Next we have Yzma Transformed Kitten, a 2-cost inkable 2/1 who quests for 1 with the ability I win. When this character is banished, if you have more cards in your hand than each opponent, you may return this card to your hand. So we've seen some of this in Amethyst, being able to bring characters back to your hand, like Hey, Persistent Presence. I mean, I think in a lot of these cases, these characters, like, yes, they come back. Yes, that can be a bit of a nuisance to your opponent, but the stats aren't particularly good.
So really, even though it's very similar to Hey, the only difference between them both is that Hey is when it's banished in a challenge. Yzma is anytime it is banished. So in that aspect, that's the benefit. But obviously, Hey is guaranteed when it is in a challenge, so it's a hard one. And both are so cute, so I wouldn't be able to pick.
It's great to see Cat Yzma, and if you've seen the Cusco whale art, this is actually in the background of that art, so it's not continuous, but it is different perspectives on the same scene, which is amazing.
I didn't realize. It's just down here. Right?
Then last up for us in Amethyst, we have Chernobog, Creatures of the Night. Okay. There's a 5-cost uninkable, sorry. Matthias is singing throwing me off. 5-cost uninkable 2/6. Questing for 1 with the ability Midnight Revel. When you play this character, each opponent chooses and exerts 1 of their ready characters. They can't ready at the start of their next turn. Kind of a similar ability to Anna Eager Acolyte, I think was the name. Except in Chernobog's case, they can't ready at the start of your next turn. So it is a nice way to get around ward, potentially. If your opponent doesn't have any of the characters on board, then they'll be forced to exert their warded character. But I don't know. I think 5-cost.
I think people will pick Hin over Anna if they're running Anna.
Oh, people aren't picking Anna.
If they were running Anna.
If they were running Anna, I'm not so sure. Maybe in a Blurple deck where you're able to get to your 5-cost characters sooner, you could run him, but I'm not so sure. And that will do us for Amethyst. So let's drop him in. Let's update. Not many cards left now. only one more day of reveals, and then that'll be everything already for set 7.
And then Enchanted.
But then Enchanted, yeah. But that was like a fast 7 days of reveals. And before we move on, we'd like to just give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, Heavy Play. Heavy Play have their Equip mag system, which allows you to connect your dice box to your deck box and your playmat to make it super easy when you swap between tables when playing. They also have their curved sleeves with curved corners, which make it easy to shuffle and make sure you never have a card upside down in your deck again. If you want to get your hands on any Heavy Play products, you can grab those at heavyplay.com and use the discount code Inkborn10 at checkout to get 10% off your whole order. It helps us out at the channel and you get some really, really awesome products. So thank you so much to the sponsors of this video, Heavy Play, and we are going to go on to Emerald. Thank you. So starting us off in Emerald, we have our first ever legendary action. It's only the second legendary non-character card after the Lucky Dime. And this is the Return of Hercules, a 5-cost inkable. Each player may reveal a character card from their hand and play it for free. So very cool looking card on the surface. Definitely got like a load of ideas firing in my brain when I saw this one. I'll say that I feel like right now in set 7, this card probably isn't going to be that great just because we're limited with how many really powerful characters we have. Because, you know, a lot of the time, do you have characters that cost more than 5 in your deck anyway? So you're not really getting that much of an advantage and your opponent gets to play character. But that being said, there are some definite fun synergies with this card. So because it's Emerald, you can pair it with a discard package. If your opponent doesn't have any cards in their hand, then you can play this play character and they can't play a character. So I think that is something that's potentially a viable strategy. You could pair it with the Argo Fake Flamingo, allowing you to play actions cheaper. So if you're able to play this, say, on turn 4 instead, or even turn 3, then that's, you know, more tempo, especially if you have a powerful character to drop off the back of it. And of course, you can also use Robin Hood Sharpshooter to get it out for free, which again would just give you another huge tempo boost. Of course, your opponent is also getting that. And the very important thing to say about this is actions resolve from the active player first. So you would play your character and then your opponent would play their character. So it does mean that if you play something and you're playing against like a Ruby Sapphire deck, they could then follow up with a Maleficent Dragon. Exactly. They could follow up with a Lady Tremaine or Madame Medusa. So that is the kind of inherent downside of this. In terms of just like the design space it creates, I think it's a really, really interesting one that will absolutely get better with time. I just don't know if now is the
just
time
risky, as you said, because they will wait to see what you have in hand and then they'll react in their turn by playing. Not in their turn, just right after, right? You do it. But if they have nothing in hand, because that's discard, you might be well.
And I think you can also protect yourself if you set up like a Singer 5 and then you play this and then you have your Singer 5 sing We Don't Talk About Bruno on whatever they just play, or you do a Mother Knows Best on what they just play, then at least you're still getting the advantage and they're not. But I feel like anything you do, you end up having to have multiple cards ready to combo it together to be able to make the most advantage of it. But very interesting.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I don't think I'll be mad if this card wasn't enchanted. Because I can imagine if they're still keeping Megara and Hercules in front of the gate. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, this is a gorgeous looking card. And again, very interesting. I'd love to see people make it work. I'm just not fully convinced yet. Next up, we have one of the Ugly Sisters finally joining Lorcana. This is Anastasia, bossy stepsister. Yeah, it doesn't quantify that she's ugly, but she's a 3-cost inkable, 3/1 questing for 2 with the ability, oh, I hate this. Whenever this character is challenged, the challenging player chooses and discards a card. An effect we've seen on Cursed Merfolk, on Flynn Rider, Charming Rogue. Definitely a really powerful ability in Emerald, kind of helping you with the inherent card disadvantage of characters being banished. The interesting thing about Anastasia is the stats. So it's a 3/1, so she is often going to be trading with whatever challenges into her. Obviously with Cursed Merfolk, you almost never lose a character with them, but with Anastasia, one of your characters could easily be banished as well, so you'd be losing that character and a card from your hand. So it could be quite a powerful one. Next, we have Shere Khan, Infamous Tiger. This is a 4-cost and inkable 4/4 questing for 4 with the ability, what a pity, when you play this character, discard your hand. So a very, very interesting one, maybe for an aggro deck. It's interesting to say as well that the way this ability is written, the discarding your hand is an effect of playing this character. So something like Kronk Laid Back would actually prevent you having to discard. So if you have Kronk Laid Back in play, his ability would prevent you having to discard. So that is potentially one bit of synergy you could play around with so that you're essentially getting this really well-statted character into play without the inherent disadvantage of discarding your whole hand. So we'll see what people do with this one.
I think, as you said, like for hyper aggro, that's really good because I will be probably just using up my ones.
Yeah.
A hyper aggro, obviously, Emerald Amethyst more likely. This card then is a bomb, like questing for 4. Again, we don't know how it's going to be played. I love the gameplay behind it.
Yeah.
It's another example of very good creativity.
Yeah, and I think in like Sealed or something where you're often top decking anyway.
If
you get this, you just play it.
It's so scary. It's like, what?
Up next, we have Basil's Secret Informer, 6-cost inkable, 3/6 questing for 3. With the ability, draw them out. Whenever this character quests, opposing damaged characters gain Reckless during their next turn. So, fun design space here again with the giving the Reckless. I do think at a 6 cost, even though he is inkable, it's probably a little bit too expensive for what it is. I think probably a little bit too easily removed, unfortunately, as well.
And it's all based on damage characters as well, so they still have the dependency
yes, exactly,
to actually trigger the effect. I'm just realizing, because we're seeing, obviously we saw Basil getting hypnotized long ago by Jafar to look for the crown. But when he finds the last part, as you see, this card is interesting that is still the
barnacles.
The barnacles from Ursula, so there's still some of that there. I thought that would be long gone by now.
Yeah.
By set 7, but
and is he in the Illuminary? Because it definitely looks like the pillars, right?
I think that's maybe when he went up there doing Shimmer Skies, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah.
And then last up for us in Emerald, we have Cheshire Cat, Perplexing Feline, a 5-cost inkable, 4/3 questing for 2, with the ability Mad Grin. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to chosen damaged character. An effect we've seen plenty of at this point in Emerald. Still an archetype that hasn't fully developed, so I'm not sure that Cheshire Cat is going to be the card that helps bring it together, but always happy to see more Cheshire Cats, and he is a shift target for Floodborn Cheshire Cat as well. So that will do us for Emerald, so let's drop in those cards now. So that's all of the legendaries now, also for Emerald, and with that we can jump over to Ruby. So we have the Queen of Hearts losing her temper. She is a 2-cost inkable, 1/4 questing for 1. With the ability Royal Pain, whilst this character has damage, she gains +3. It's actually funny, it's like an inverse Lawrence. He loses his strength when he has damage, she gains strength when she has damage. But I think as a 1/4 could be interesting. I think maybe if you like Teeth and Ambition her or something and then use her to swing into something, it could be good. I don't think you really want it. Well, maybe you could take out like
there's
a Lilo or something.
And there's the Neo Queen of Hearts, right? The Floodborn ones and stuff. So
that's true. So she could enter play with damage already.
Work really well, for that, I think.
Up next, we have Circe Unruly Knight, a 2-cost inkable 2/2, questing for 2. Not much to say about this one. I guess if ever you wanted to do like a Ruby aggro deck, then he's probably a good fit into that. And do you know which film he's from?
Sword in the Stone, of course.
Milo Thatch is up next. He's an Undaunted Scholar, 2-cost inkable, 2/2, questing for 1. With the ability I'm Your Guy, whenever you play an action, you may give chosen character +2 strength this turn. So okay ability. We've seen a lot of abilities this set that give strength to characters in Ruby.
That's all it was, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm feeling very demotivated by Ruby this set. It makes sense that they're trying just to balance because maybe they get too much at the beginning, right? The first 4 sets. But give us more. I like Ruby. I want more interesting cards.
And then up next we have the Ruby Coil. This is a 2-cost inkable item with the ability Crimson Spark. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, chosen character gets +2 strength this turn.
Guess what?
Personally, I think I would run this over Milo for
100%,
sure.
It's always there.
So
always been triggered.
So not much to say. Fortunately, a card that I think is quite a bit more interesting in Ruby, we have Lyle Tiberius Rock, Crystallized Mercenary, 8-cost inkable, 6/4 questing for 3 with the ability Explosive. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, deal 2 damage to each character in play. Including himself, including your characters, including your opponent's characters. So certainly an interesting card, just like purely from a design perspective, like designing this card. It can obviously be combined with things. So if you combine with like Resist and Steel or Sapphire, then it can protect your characters. Like if you have 2 Cogsworth Grindfather Clocks in play, then none of your characters are taking damage whilst your opponent characters are taking damage. A lot of people said, like, why isn't this in Steel? But I think it's specifically because you're also dealing damage to your own characters.
No, I think exactly. It's going to yourself, right? And it's a shame that obviously you can get the resist that I just said, but it's gonna last for the best 2 turns. Unless you do that.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. It costs 8. It's just so hard to make it work.
Yeah, I think if you're able to get him in sooner, so people were saying you could, put him in a Mufasa deck.
Yeah, okay.
And then maybe he's cheated in with Mufasa, or you ramp into him using some of the ramp cards in Amber. You could get him out a bit sooner, but I think the card is interesting.
Just wish it was 6/6.
Wow. If it was 6/6, it should be a 10 cost.
But still.
Yeah, I know. And then last up, we have Maurice, Unconventional Inventor, 4-cost inkable, 5/2, questing for 1 with the ability. How on earth did that happen? When you play this character, you may banish chosen item of yours to draw a card. If you banish an item named Maurice's Machine, you may also banish chosen character with 2 strength or less. So first things first, like the first part of the ability, Maurice is like a baby Hiram. Much worse stats, admittedly. The 5/2 means he will probably trade with whatever banishes him, but it does mean that he's much easier to remove for steal. It means that he is not going to stick around as much as Hiram. He only gets his ability on play rather than on play when he quests, and it's only 1 card. So I think for all of that reasons, you're still going to run Hiram, unless you're not playing Sapphire, of course. But then the other part of the ability, if you do have Maurice's Machine in play, then you also get to draw a card, and you can basically brawl a character as well when you play Maurice. So it could be okay. It could be okay, but
I'm trying to think which items in Ruby we've been playing nowadays. Maybe we'll bring some back with the Zoom meta, but there isn't many.
Really. Yeah. But the thing of it is encouraging you to play Maurice in a Ruby Sapphire deck.
It is, right?
And
because of the Maurice Machine.
And I think if you're playing,
have plenty of items.
But if you're playing it in Ruby Sapphire, I don't see why you wouldn't just play Hiram.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. Because you can only use Maurice Machine in Ruby Sapphire. So now we're talking about Ruby with something else. Yeah. They will only give you the 1 item, right? When you play. The 1 card when you play. Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, fun if you want to build like some crazy combos. And I think Beauty and the Beast deck is definitely achievable this set. But I think you just play Hiram. So that will do us for Ruby. As Matthias said, I'm a little bit underwhelmed with Ruby this set. Like
very underwhelmed.
The legendaries aren't great.
Right? And we have Maui Shark, Half Shark, less set, but come on. It is disappointing. It is very disappointing. I haven't seen anything that I enjoy so far for Ruby.
But let's move over to a color that did get quite a lot of support this set.
Literally every single card. It's good. Yeah. Talking about a good card.
Yeah, we're going to start off with All Is Found. This is a 5-cost inkable song. Put up to 2 cards from your discard into your inkwell, face down and exerted. So even more ink acceleration for Sapphire. As if they didn't have enough. But I actually do.
It's a song.
I know. I think this has no business being a song. But the fact that it is a song, you know what? I actually don't know if it fits into like your traditional like control Sapphire decks. I think maybe this would work in an Amber Sapphire deck again. It could be if you have a singer 5 played on turn 3 like an Ariel, and then you have her sing this, then it's actually getting you quite a lot of ink quite early, allowing you to then on turn 5, because it would come in exerted. But turn 5 you then have quite a lot of ink to play with to hopefully close out the game. But that's not to say that it isn't going to see play in other decks as well. I think
it will, even because of what it is, like the card, just the art and everything. This is adorable. It's probably my top 10 arts so far. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, the art is absolutely incredible. Kuya JP, of course, always fantastic art. And then next up, we're going to see Jebediah Farnsworth, Expedition Cook, a 4-cost inkable, 3/3 questing for 1. He has support, but he also has the ability. I got your 4 basic food groups. When you play this character, chosen character gains resist +1 until the start of your next turn. I'm not sure that the second ability, to be honest, is worth it for the stats that he has. Like resist +1 is so. I think you would probably want to play Zipper maybe instead, and then at least you can give the resist turn after turn after turn. But not much to say about
and it's just until the next turn, right?
Yeah, that's okay. And let's go to the next one, which is Baymax Upgraded Robot, a 5-cost inkable, 3/5 questing for 1. Baymax also has support, but he also has the ability Advanced Scanner. When you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Floodborn character card and put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So more support in Sapphire for Floodborn. So we've seen quite a few of these cards this set. We've seen the cards in previous sets as well, but here we go. This is a way to find the Floodborns that you would need in order to add them to your hand. Kind of like Grandma Tala's ability, but specifically for Floodborn, you get to look at more cards.
We are hearing a lot of Floodborn related abilities with the whole Big Hero 6 set, right? It's interesting. Also with the new Universal Shift, right? So
you know what's really interesting is it says you may reveal a Floodborn character card. And so far we only have Floodborn characters in the game, but is that kind of designing for the future to say we might one day get Floodborn item
that
or something?
Is clever.
We'll see. But yeah, let's drop those characters into Sapphire.
Or those cards even.
Yes.
Including Floodborns.
Including Floodborns. And then we'll go on over to Steel. So first up in Steel for us, we have Aladdin Research Assistant, 4 cost, uninkable, 2/4, questing for 2. He has 2 abilities. The first one is Outstretched Hand. Whenever this character quests, you may play an ally character of cost 3 or less for free. And he also has the ability to go to trouble. While this character is exerted, your ally characters gain +1 strength. So really interesting. Anytime you can play a character for free, I think it's a very good ability. Aladdin does need to survive a turn, but still, if you're able to do that, I mean...
It is every time you quest.
Every time you quest.
Yes.
For sure, in limited formats, that's definitely going to be a really powerful ability to have.
Very impressive. So, did you notice what he's holding? I thought at first it was a rock, but that's actually the jasmine we talked about just now on Sapphire.
So that's why he's
not just now, in the beginning of this video, in the duo in color. So she's just above. So that is a continuous art.
She's the researcher. He's the research assistant.
Exactly. That's amazing. I'm so happy to see another continuous art. And we'll do a video about that very soon, so stay tuned here.
Yes, absolutely. So here we have Double Trouble. This is a 2 cost inkable action. Choose up to 2 characters and deal 1 damage to each of them. We've seen things like this already in Steel. Whether this one's going to be that useful, I'm not so sure. I mean, if there's a lot of aggro in the metagame, then potentially it's a way of banishing 2 characters at once. But yeah, not much to say about this one.
You can see the 3rd fairy all the way on the back. She's almost coming there to do the 3rd damage, but they were like, too expensive, go back. And she's like, okay.
It would be a 3 cost.
Exactly.
Next up, we have Rare Guidance Seeker, 3 cost inkable, 1/4, questing for 2, with the ability A Greater Purpose. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, this character gains resist +1 until the start of your next turn.
I like that.
Yeah, so it's decent stats on Rare. Basically, you're always gonna be giving her resist each turn. If you pair this with Sapphire, which Steel often likes to do, then you can be doing it multiple times and giving her a lot of resist, helping her stick around for a while. And yeah, even a 1/4 questing for 2 on 3, without that is still pretty decent.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, because it's whenever, I could literally ink twice with Sapphire and then she gets +2 resist.
You could play the new Sapphire song that lets you put 2 cards into your inkwell.
Yeah, and then do your normal ink, so she's resist +4. 2
3,
+1, 3.
3 at that point.
Yeah, that is cool. And it's always nice to see Reyes with more playability, because we haven't seen many. Maybe the red one that we saw in the last set, the ruby one, but yeah.
And then last up for us, we have the Steel Coil. This is a 2 cost, uninkable item with the ability Metallic Flow. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. They really want us to be doing this in Steel, for sure.
That's what Steel, yeah.
So, some more ways to filter your deck to find the cards that you need. Every time you ink, I think is a nice way to trigger this. It's going to be something you can do every turn, just to kind of dig through your deck and find the answers you need, at the expense of putting stuff into your discard. But yeah.
It's interesting that because we only have 3 Lumineers, like in the main storyline, they have to be getting so many coins for the same. So Shanzai has this one, has the Amethyst one.
But each of
their whole body.
Each of them represents 2 ink colors, right?
It does, yeah. So I think some is on the arm, some is on the leg, right? But it's funny. They have to add more Lumineers.
And less coils, I don't know.
Or less coils.
So that is it for Steel. So let's drop those in. I think this batch less interesting for Steel. Steel got some really great cards early on.
It has some good cards from before, especially Bagheera. I love Bagheera.
So that is going to do us for today. As always, let us know down in the comments what your favorite reveal was from this time. How about you, Matthias?
Probably the Umber Snow White, Ferris in the Land.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's the Sapphire All Is Found.
Yes.
Song. I think it's a super interesting one. And of course, if you like this video, give us a like and also subscribe, because we're going to be looking at the last batch of reveals very soon, probably tomorrow. So we'll give you all of our thoughts on that. Of Of course, huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, HeavyPlay. Remember, you can grab your products at heavyplay.com and use the discount code Inkborn10 at checkout to get 10% off your whole order. And a huge shout out to our YouTube members. We really appreciate all of the support. If you're curious about becoming a member, you can hit the join button down below. Hopefully it lit up and it will give you all of the details. Of course, if you want to see reveals in real time, be sure to check out our Instagram. Amethyst is always over there, updating it as fast as he can at the great expense of his personal health. I'm kidding. So check it out over there.
And obviously Discord, go check our link in the description of this video. It should be up to date. Try it out and come join the family. We're talking about all the card reviews and everything that's coming very soon with ARCHAZIA'S Island.
And so with that, until we see you for the final batch of reveals,
happy questing!